What is up, sports fans? So today we're going to talk about this week in sports, and it's an exciting week. A lot of good action that's been going on. So follow along. I would like to say this first. Start off with this week in sports. Not going to talk a lot about baseball. It's not baseball season. It was announced just a few minutes ago that my Tampa Bay Rays will be playing this season in Steinbrenner Park, home of the Yankees, for the season. Obviously, because of Hurricane Milton destroying Tropicana Field, unfortunately. So, Rays will be playing this year in Steinbrenner Park in Tampa, which only holds 11,000 people. So, expect every game to be sold out. So, it'll be fun. A lot of those people in Tampa complain about having to travel across the water to St. Pete and traffic and all. So, they're actually going to be playing in Tampa. All right, so let's start off things right here with the NFL. We'll talk about the previous week's games in the NFL. So let's go right here, share out. Okay, so let's talk about this previous week's games in the NFL. I already talked about the Thursday night game from last week. I think on the preview show, that was a great, crazy game. Baltimore won 35-34 with the Bengals. The Bengals went for two in the end. It was two penalties that the referees missed on the Ravens on that play. Were not called. One on Joe Burrow, one holding on Mike Gesicki, but what a great roller coaster of a game last Thursday night. We'll talk about this week's Thursday night game in a few minutes. Hopefully that game can be close to as good as that Thursday night game. On paper, I think it will. All right, so let's go to Sunday and let's go to Munich, Germany, one of my favorite cities in the world, Munich, Germany, as the Carolina Panthers took on the New York Giants. Carolina won in overtime 26-20 over the New York Giants. Battle of two teams that came in with a record of 2-7. Panthers lead 3-7, which actually exceeds their win total from a year ago. Bryce Young and the guys back-to-back wins. They can't say that too often in Carolina, but back-to-back W's. They got the dub against the Giants 20-17 in Munich, Germany. All right, let's go to that 12 o'clock window of games. Well, 1 Eastern, you had the New England Patriots thumping the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field 19-3. The Boo Birds were all out in Chicago. They were all chanting fire floofs. And Caleb Williams is struggling. He's regressing. And the Patriots defense, they went sack happy on Caleb Williams. They sacked him 5 or 6 times in that game. Drake May didn't have a huge game, but he did enough to get a victory, and the defense were all over the Chicago Bears. 3 straight losses for the Bears. I feel like that loss to Washington keeps on defeating them because ever since that Washington game, the hits just keep on coming for the Bears. They were 4-2 going in. Now they're 4-5. Patriots 3-5, and as crazy as it sounds, still alive in the playoff race in the AFC. All right. The Buffalo Bills go to 8-2. They beat the Indianapolis Colts 30-20. They go to 8-2. The Colts dropped to 4-6. Another bad game for Joe Flacco. They announced later in the week they're going back to Anthony Richardson. Flacco did not play well, and Bills got an easy victory. I want to say easy. I mean, it was competitive at times, but it was a game that never felt like the Colts had a chance to win. Josh Allen, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. And they look forward to their showdown this week with the Kansas City Chiefs, which we'll talk about later in the week when I preview the upcoming games. The Denver Broncos, led the Kansas City Chiefs the whole game, and they survived. The Chiefs survived. Again, they survived 16-14 to go to 9-0, and they beat the Broncos, drop them to 5-5 as the Chiefs win that game 16-14. A block a field goal from Will Lutz, a short kick at the end to propel the Chiefs to another victory. The New Orleans Saints, with their new coach, Darren Rizzi, their interim coach, get a victory over the Atlanta Falcons 20-17 in the Dome to snap a 7-game losing streak. You know, oftentimes when teams go to an interim coach, they get that interim coach boost. Saints got it today. Young Wei Koo was the GOAT for the Atlanta Falcons in this game. He was the hero the first time they played. He hit the game winner. This time he was a GOAT. He missed 3 field goals, had 1 block and straight up missed 2 as the Saints pulled a victory over the first place Falcons. The San Francisco 49ers in a great game. went on the road, beat Tampa Bay with a last-second field goal, 23-20. Jake Moody actually missed 3 field goals in this game, and Deebo Samuel got in a shoving match with Moody and the long snapper as he was frustrated. But guess what? Moody came through in the end to lead his team to a victory of 23-20. Moody actually made 3 field goals. He missed 3, so he kicked 6 field goals in this game. So Tampa Bay did a really good job of holding the 49ers at bay, playing with those injuries that they have. And, Baker Mayfield's playing pretty good ball despite not having his 2 best receivers, but dropping to 4 and 6. Huge loss for the Buccaneers, huge win for the 49ers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 28-27, victory over the Washington Commanders. Good football game here. Steelers come back from 10 points, pull it off. Russell Wilson was cooking. Russ made some big throws when he needed to make it. Jaden Daniels, a little subpar game, only 50% completions, 202 yards. Terry McLaurin had 113 yards for Washington. Wasn't enough. Pittsburgh Steelers got the victory, 28-27. Go a little deeper into the box score. George Pickens, 91 yards here. Mike Williams just traded in for the Jets. He caught his first touchdown pass when his first catch as a Pittsburgh Steeler, a 32-yard touchdown pass. Russ only completed 50%, 195, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, but Russ made the plays when they needed to be made, and he gets his team surprisingly to 7-2 on the season. No one saw that one coming. All right, the Minnesota Vikings in an ugly football game, 12-7, all field goals. They beat the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence out hurt and Mac Jones playing. This is not a pretty game. I mean, unless you're a fan of the Vikings, I don't know why you would even watch this game. Darnold threw 3 picks as he's come right back down to earth here, but Vikings are 7-2, so don't know how far they can go if Sam Darnold continues to play at the rate he's playing, and he's got to go back to the early season version of himself if they want to make a run. San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers defeat the Tennessee Titans 27-17, drop the Titans to a record of 2-7 on the year. Justin Herbert continues to play solid and under control, and the Chargers continue to play excellent defense under Jim Harbaugh, something they've not done in the past. Jim Harbaugh's done a fantastic job. He's got the run game going. He's got Justin Herbert looking solid, and the defense playing good football as they're 6-3 on the season. The Philadelphia Eagles 34-6 over the hapless Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush looked horrible. Dak's not coming back this year. The Cowboys are 3-6. They may as well just tank for a draft pick at this point. Philadelphia Eagles looking good here, 14-20, 202, 2 touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. He's playing under control, not turning the ball over like he was early in the season. Feel like the Eagles have gotten out of their own way, played it more conservatively, put the ball in Saquon's hands, and just, coast to these victories, playing it smart. The Arizona Cardinals, they win for the 3rd week in a row. They destroy Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, or as I like to call them, the New Jersey Jets, 31-6 in this game. Rodgers and the Jets at 3-7. It's looking really bleak. They're deep inside of that darkness trying to get out. They need to win all of their games. If they get lucky and go 6-1, maybe sneak in at 9-8, which is not impossible if you look at the AFC playoff picture, which I'm going to talk about in my NFL video coming up this weekend. I'm not going to get into that today because I got other sports to talk about. But 31-6, easy victory today for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray looking great, 266 yards and a touchdown. Man, set a record for the Cardinals, 17 straight completions, 22-24. Big-time victory. James Conner running 80 yards receiving and rushing the ball well. Sunday Night Football, great football game. The Detroit Lions overcome 5 interceptions by Jared Goff as they win 26-23 over the Houston Texans to improve to 8-1 on the season and drop the Texans to 6-4. Not a devastating loss for the Texans because they are definitely in control of their division regardless of the loss. But great win for Detroit. They showed not playing their best ball, they can still win the game. Jake Bates' 52-yard field goal as time expires. Detroit's 8-1. Monday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins staying alive. Staying alive after a horrible stretch of 1-3 with Tua injured. Tua comes back. They play two really actually good games and lose both against Arizona and Buffalo, and score 27 in both games and lose. The offense in this game against the Rams actually didn't look as good, but the defense was fantastic, holding Matthew Stafford and the guys to 5 field goals and controlling Kyren Williams only 62 yards on the ground. So Dolphins defense, they play like this. Tua stays healthy, does his thing. They can certainly make a run at this last playoff spot, but that this week coming up, got the Raiders. Week after that, got the Patriots. So this could be a good start. The Rams, this is a big loss for them because now they're behind the 8 ball in their division. They're a game and a half behind the Cardinals, and they got the 49ers right there, a game ahead of them, and then they're tied with the Seahawks for last. So big loss for them, but the Rams are a talented team. I expect them to bounce back. So staying with football, let's go to college football. Now we'll talk a little bit about the games that happened this past weekend in college football. Go back to week 11. Start off at the top here. We'll go the Oregon Ducks, the number 1 ranked team in the country, destroy Maryland 39-18. Not a big surprise here. Kind of got what we expected here. 10-0 in the season. We're waiting to see Oregon coast into that Big Ten championship game, see if they can stay undefeated. They're pretty much a lock for the playoffs because unless they slip up a couple times at least once before they get to the Big Ten title game and then slip up again, they're pretty much locked into that playoffs. 10-0, impressive as always. Next game on the docket, number 2 Ohio State destroying Drew Brees' alma mater. What a rough season Purdue is having. 1-8, 0-6 in the Big Ten, the Boilermakers, and they just got boiled by Ohio State 45-0. Ohio State's 8-1 on the season. They're 5-1 in the Big Ten, and they got a matchup coming up against Indiana that's going to be massive coming up soon. We can't wait for that game. Ole Miss pulling off the upset. Lane Kiffin and the boys, 28-10 over the Georgia Bulldogs. Jackson Dart, 199 yards in the air, 50 yards on the ground. Defense stifling as they win that game 28-10. Go a little deeper into the box score, and you'll see Carson Beck threw another interception. The guy's got 12 interceptions in the last 6 games, and that's a recipe for a disaster. Georgia right now kind of hanging on the edge right now because that is not what you want to see if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan. Big upset of the week, number 4, Miami loses 28-23 to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, they had a great game plan. They stuck to it. They put the ball on the ground. They ran the ball, and they had a 10-minute drive, took a lot of momentum away from Miami. Cam Ward had 348 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in this game, but Miami's offense was never in rhythm because Georgia Tech's game plan to run the ball 48 times for 271 yards. When you run the ball 48 times for 271 yards, I don't care who you're playing, you're going to take your opponent out of rhythm. Miami right now is still in good shape. If they can win out, they'll get to the playoffs and they'll win the ACC. Since the Canes have been in the ACC, they've never even been in the ACC championship game. So big opportunity, big disappointment this past week, however, losing that game to a gritty Georgia Tech team. So I got to find my way back on the week here. Here we go. All right, so Texas beat Florida 49-17. That was not a football game. It was 35-0 at halftime. Gators never stood a chance. Playing their third-string quarterback, Quinn Ewers, 333 yards, 5 touchdowns. Easy win for the Texas Longhorns. When we do our weekly preview, we'll talk about the playoff rankings, and we'll talk about upcoming games and all that stuff when I do my dedicated to college football video coming up in the next day or so. Penn State 35-6 over Washington, number 6 ranked team. Easy victory. Washington was in the national championship game last year. And just like Michigan, the team that beat them last year, having a lot of issues this year. They're 5-5. Both teams, of course, lost their coaches, and you can see it. Next game on the docket, Tennessee 33-14 over Mississippi State, by far the worst team in the SEC. Hail State's 0-6 in the conference, 2-8 overall. Big win for Tennessee. They rolled 8-1, 5-1 in the SEC. Tennessee has a stifling defense. I don't know if I really trust their offense too much lately. Their passing game has been really inconsistent. They can run well, but their passing game very inconsistent. But I love Tennessee's defense. Their defense is as good as any defense in this country. Next, number 8, Indiana Hoosiers, the surprise team this year, 10-0, 7-0 in the Big Ten. They got the Buckeyes on the road coming up next. They spanked the defending national champions who don't feel like a defending national champion, Michigan Wolverines, 20-15. Michigan definitely not the same team since Jim Harbaugh left them, and struggling at 5-5, 3-4 in the Big Ten. BYU continues to be undefeated in a hard-fought, ugly win against their state rival Utah, who was expected to be the team that may be undefeated in the top 10, but at 4-5, 1-5, they're having a rough season. Utah scored 21 points in the second quarter, led 21-10 at halftime. Those were the only 21 points Utah scored as BYU scrambled back and beat them 22-21 on a last-second field goal. Number 10, Notre Dame destroyed. Speaking of teams that was good last year, a team that the biggest flip I think I've ever seen. Florida State Seminoles, 12-0 regular season last year. They are 1-9. I mean, are you kidding me? 1-9, 0-4, well, 0-4 away from home. It says they did win that one game in conference. That was against Cal, so they could easily be 0-10. That was a really close game. Notre Dame just spanks them, 52-3. 21-0 in the fourth quarter. That's a beatdown right there. Alabama, speaking of beatdowns, what a disappointment this game was. Buzzkill here in Baton Rouge. They hammer LSU 42-13. College Game Day was here at ESPN, and Alabama just beat down the Tigers. Jalen Milroe ran the ball all over LSU. And this game wasn't a contest. Garrett Nussmeier was Garrett Nussmeier, turning the ball over, making mistakes. Milroe had 185 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. He didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot because he was just using his legs to run all over the Tigers. Boise State, another win, 28-21, a close win over a bad Nevada team as Ashton Jeanty, the Heisman Trophy candidate, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's over 200 yards. Feels like every week. I would have my pauses about Boise State for this game being so competitive with a 3-8, 0-5 in conference Nevada team, though. Kansas pulling off the upset. Yes, I'm wearing a Jayhawks hat. I'm a Kansas basketball fan, of course, though. 45-36 at home against the 17th ranked Iowa State. That was a big blow to Iowa State in their hopes of winning the Big 12 and getting in the college football playoff. Big blow to them. Kansas having a disappointment season in football. We expect a little more out of the Jayhawks, but nice win today over their conference rival, 45-36. Virginia pulling off an upset as well, beating Pittsburgh, coming in number 18, 24-19. Pittsburgh, they may have dropped out of the poll. I haven't looked at the poll yet, but they may have dropping out after that loss. Colorado and primetime Deion Sanders continuing to roll 7-2 for the Buffaloes. 41-27 win over Texas Tech. Boy, that offense looks good. Shedeur, nearly 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Defensive touchdown for Shiloh Sanders in this game. And this team looks really good right now, and they have a legitimate chance to sneak into the playoffs and represent the Big 12. Washington State ranked one of the 2 teams in the Pac-2. They go to 8-1 on the season. They beat Utah State 49-28. They were left behind. The way the Big Ten is looking at it right now, maybe you should have took them instead of Washington. Oregon, number 23 ranked team. Oregon. Clemson, the number 23 ranked team in the country, survived Virginia Tech after a slow start. All 24 points in the second half. They beat Virginia Tech 24-14. Cade Klubnik, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns. Clemson looking to get it together. They were red hot, and then they looked really bad last week. Missouri survives defensive touchdown late 30-23 over Oklahoma. Missouri is now 7-2. Oklahoma 5-5. And Army's 9-0. They beat North Texas 14-13. So we got to move on and talk a little bit now about the NBA. I'm going to pull up the NBA standings right here. The hottest team in the league is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They won last night. They are 13-0 on the season. The Boston Celtics, of course, they're the Boston Celtics, defending champs, still dominant, 10-3 right there in the Eastern Conference. Also picked up a win last night. How about the Orlando Magic, man? Without Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner stepping up, showing that he can be a top guy in this league as well. I'm all about Franz for the All-Star team this year. Probably not going to get Paolo in before the votes come back, because Paolo's probably going to be out another month, maybe. So, but Franz is playing All-Star level basketball, averaging over 21 a game, and he can fill up a stat sheet. Rebounds, assists, he does it all. 4 straight wins, all at home for the Magic. Knicks a little bit struggling here at 5-6. Pacers lost last night to the Magic. They're 5-6. So you only got 3 teams in the East over 500, which is crazy. And as crazy as it sounds, at 5-8, the Detroit Pistons are doing good. They were so bad last year. When you see that 5-8 record, it actually looks good. Milwaukee Bucks have won a couple in a row after just a horrific start. I mean, to be 2-8 and have Giannis, one of the best players on the planet, and to have, I know Chris Middleton's been out, but and you got Damian Lillard. He's been in there playing most of the year, so if not all of the year. So if you got Lillard and you got Giannis, you should not start off 2-8. Philadelphia is another team starting off horrible, but Joel Embiid's only been back for 2 games, and he's missed both, and he's lost both games since he's been back, getting his feet under him after missing the first 9 games. They also got Tyrese Maxey out. They need Maxey back. That would help them out a whole lot as well. They get both of those guys back. You might see Philadelphia make a run up the standings. You look at the Western Conference, a lot of good basketball played there. Oklahoma, they lost Holmgren the other day. He's going to be out. That's a big injury, but they're 10-2 on the season. You got SGA balling out like only SGA can do. You got Golden State playing really good ball right there, 9-2. Steph Curry doing a night the other day as they welcomed Klay Thompson back home. Good team right there, Golden State, if they can keep it up. They've not been so good the last couple of years, so I think that the pickup of I don't know why I can't remember the name right now. Escaping me. Oh, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's averaging 17-6 a game. He's a guy that's kind of bounced around a lot, but he's playing good basketball. Then you got Steph Curry averaging 24 a game. He's not aging at all. So they're playing good ball over there in the Bay. Phoenix 9-3. Good to see Kevin Durant and Booker and those guys off to a good start. Nuggets 7-3 right there. Of course, they're going to be right there in the mix. Rockets playing good ball. They got a lot of young talent. That's a team right there. That's on the rise. Lakers 7-4. They've actually won 3 straight. LeBron, he's definitely not aging. That man's still playing good ball. AD's playing at an MVP level. Memphis bouncing back with Ja Morant this year, 7-5 after a rough season last year. Sacramento, they're always right there in the mix. Clippers playing mediocre ball. Paul George and Kawhi can't keep those guys on the court. I know Paul George just recently came back. Kawhi is always hurt. I just shake my head whenever I even hear Kawhi's name. Spurs 6-6 hanging around. Rough season last year. You got Wembanyama, who had a monster year. If you can get him to keep it rolling, that team, they can be a contender. Minnesota underachieving here, 3-game losing streak. They just got swept in 2 games by the young upstart Portland Trail Blazers. No one saw that coming. Dallas Mavericks 5-6, 3-game losing streak as well with Luka and Kyrie. You don't expect that. New Orleans Pelicans, man, just decimated with injuries. Decimated. I mean, you don't even recognize that team when you see them. I mean, it's like Brandon Ingram's been playing all year, and then who else? Trey Murphy just came back. As soon as he came back, they lose Jose Alvarado, who's one of the leading scorers, who's had to be forced to play extra minutes because of the injuries. You lose him, and he's not coming back for a while. Zion's out for a while now, apparently. It says indefinitely. You haven't seen C.J. McCollum in a while. Herb Jones has been out. You go out in the offseason, you sign DeJounte Murray, and he plays in the first game of the season, and then he's out. So you look at some of the scores really quickly. You only got 1 game tonight, Dallas and Utah. Dallas needs that game bad to get back to 500 and get back to playing good against a Utah team that's probably playing for Cooper Flagg, hoping to get that number 1 pick. I mentioned Orlando beat Indiana last night. Boston, no problem with the Nets. Bulls survived the Knicks on the road. Good game there. Cleveland's 13-0. No problem with Joel Embiid returning his second game with the 76ers. Oklahoma City, we knew they were going to come back after trailing the Pelicans early by double digits. They won by 18. Easy game with all the injuries the Pelicans got. The Rockets, I mentioned 8-4 on the year. They got a nice win last night over the Clippers. 19 for James Harden, not enough. Milwaukee with a win last night. They've won 2 in a row now, so they're looking to step back up. They beat the Pistons, so try to get it rolling again over there after a rough start. Good win last night. Spurs get to 500. They beat the Wizards. The Lakers, big win, 128-23 over Memphis. Pretty much 2 good competitive teams right there. I think 2 teams that can be competing for that 6th spot or play-in tournament. You got Trailblazers. I mentioned back-to-back nights. They beat the Timberwolves. Who would have thought that? And then the other game, the last game of the night, the Kings, they dispatched Phoenix 127-124. Phoenix still off to a good start, as I mentioned. All right, so let's talk a little bit about college basketball before I close it out here. College basketball season just started, so we'll just kind of talk quickly about college basketball. There's some big games the other day in college basketball. Was that Tuesday night, I believe it was. My Kansas Jayhawks 77-69 win over the Michigan State Spartans. Hunter Dickinson, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals. Number 1 ranked team in the country, the Kansas Jayhawks. But again, it's so early in the season. The way college basketball rolls, I need to see a lot more. I don't really get too interested in it, to be honest, until it gets close to conference championship time. The NCAA tournament is what it's all about. So got a lot of games that are kind of like the tournament is just so random that it kind of cheapens the regular season because oftentimes the best team doesn't win, but it's always nice to see your favorite team ranked number 1. Number 6 ranked team, Duke, lost a game to number 19, Kentucky, 77-72. That was a good game that came out in the end. Cooper Flagg's the guy that we're expecting to be the number 1 overall pick. He had 26 points and 12 rebounds. And anytime Duke's on TV, we all want to watch it to see Cooper Flagg. Baylor got a big win the other night over Sam Houston's 104-67, and Ole Miss beats South Alabama 64-54. Those were the games Tuesday, so it was a lot of big games on that night. That's why I highlighted that. Look at the games last night. Nothing to really highlight there. You had all ranked opponents winning in blowout fashion. So quickly talk about any games worth highlighting coming up. I don't see anything worth highlighting coming up today. Got a good game Friday night between Alabama and Purdue. That's Ohio State and Texas A&M. Got 2 ranked teams in that game as well. Usually you get to the weekend, you get some good college basketball matchups. Kansas right there, they play Oakland on Saturday. That should – and Oakland had some success in the NCAA tournament. I don't know too much about this iteration of Oakland, so I don't know how good they're going to be this week. So we've gone almost 30 minutes here, so I am going to bounce. So we got a good week of sports right here. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll have a video coming out, separate video about college football. We'll talk about the playoff. I'll talk about the games coming up for this week. We'll preview it. We'll talk college football. We'll also have a video previewing the NFL games. We'll talk NFL tonight. There's Thursday night football, big game, the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Should be a good football game. So we'll make sure we're tuned to that. We've gone almost 30 minutes here, so I'm going to head on out. Hope you all enjoyed this week in sports. And as always, remember, it's peace and sports. We'll see y'all later.